March 17, 1521. No date is more significant than this for the Philippines, for this is supposedly the date on which this archipelagic country was discovered and introduced to the world. However, contrary to popular belief, portraying the encounter as with primitive and unsophisticated locals, Ferdinand Magellan and his crew encountered an organized society led by native chieftains, donned in opulent silk attire, exuding a remarkable sense of grandeur. Clearly, the indigenous inhabitants already possessed a highly developed lifestyle, challenging the narrative of their supposed enlightenment by outsiders. This leads us to ponder, what was life actually like in the Philippines thousands of years ago, prior to the arrival of Magellan and his crew on its shores? Before we explore the rich history of this captivating country, let's first get to know it better. Situated at the core of Southeast Asia, the Philippines distinguishes itself through its extraordinary diversity and irresistible charm. Spanning over 7,600 islands scattered across its crystal-clear waters, it presents a tropical paradise unlike any other. From El Nido to Boracay, its renowned beaches have captured the admiration of international tourists, consistently ranking among the world's finest. One could argue that in fashioning some of the world's most impressive landmarks, it appears that God bestowed special favor upon this small archipelago. The country's natural beauty is undeniably breathtaking. The Philippines proudly displays a rich variety of native wildlife and lush plant life, including unique species exclusive to its territory, highlighting the unparalleled natural wealth of this archipelago. Strategically positioned at the crossroads of the world's busiest maritime routes, the nation stands as a leading player in global geopolitics and economic dynamics. Its robust service sector has fueled sustained economic expansion, positioning it as a rising economic powerhouse in the Asian landscape. However, this same geographical location renders the country highly susceptible to natural disasters. Positioned within the Pacific Ring of Fire, it faces constant threats of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Moreover, being exposed to the Pacific Ocean, it endures numerous typhoons annually, leading to the persistent risk of flooding and widespread damage. However, the unyielding resilience of the Filipino people is extraordinary. Despite numerous adversities, they persist and thrive, a reflection of the same enduring spirit displayed by their ancestors. This resilience is a significant contributor to the nation's rich and extensive historical narrative. Frequently, the narrative of this island nation is segmented into pre-colonial and post-colonial eras. We'll be diving deeper into the rich pre-colonial history of the country, which is more often than not being overlooked. First, we must recognize the fact that before Magellan, the nation already boasted a rich history, culture, and literary tradition. The islands were already teeming with life, featuring flourishing communities spread throughout their vast expanse. As a matter of fact, the history of human settlement in this region extends back much further than previously thought. This was confirmed by the discovery of ancient rhinoceros bones, showing signs of butchery and accompanied by 57 stone tools on the island of Luzon, dating back an astonishing 709,000 years. It remains unclear which specific species was responsible for creating the cut marks on this rhino, as no hominin fossils were found at the site. The earliest human fossils discovered in the country belong to Homo luzonensis, dating back approximately 67,000 years. Scholars propose that this individual likely migrated to the island of Luzon from Indonesia, potentially using rafts for transportation. This hypothesis challenges prior assumptions, portraying early humans as skilled mariners capable of traversing extensive oceanic distances, a capability previously underestimated. Homo luzonensis, standing at under 4 feet tall, displayed remarkable adaptability, excelling both in tree climbing and ground walking. Archaeologists observed cut marks on the bones of deer and boar in proximity to the human remains, suggesting adept hunting skills. However, despite these discoveries, no man-made hunting tools were unearthed during the excavation, leaving uncertainty regarding their tool-making capabilities. However, Dr. H. Otley Bayer, a leading expert in Philippine archaeology and anthropology, proposes an even earlier arrival of the first humans in the country. According to his research, humans inhabited the Philippines approximately 2.5 million years ago during the Ice Age, or Middle Pleistocene period. This migration occurred via land bridges connecting the archipelago with Asia. This early inhabitant, known as Dawn Man, shared a common ancestry with Java Man, Peking Man, and other ancient human species in Asia. Characterized as robust and covered in dense hair, this individual had no familiarity with agriculture. His survival relied on gathering wild edible plants, fishing, and hunting. It's likely that he arrived in the Philippines while in pursuit of prey. During that era, the land was inhabited by boars, pygmy elephants, rhinoceroses, and various other Pleistocene animals. Over the passage of unrecorded time, the Dawn Man vanished without leaving any trace behind. Around 25,000 years ago, the Negritos migrated to the Philippines from the Asian mainland, traversing as well via the land bridges that connected the regions. Following their arrival, the gradual melting of immense glaciers caused a rise in sea levels, submerging the land bridges and isolating the Philippines from the Asian mainland. Consequently, the Negritos settled permanently in the archipelago, becoming its earliest inhabitants. Their lifestyle was primitive, reminiscent of the Old Stone Age. They wandered through the forests, relying on hunting, fishing, and foraging for sustenance. Their makeshift shelters, constructed from jungle foliage and tree branches, provided basic protection, and their clothing was minimal. Lacking formal community structures, they did not develop writing, literature, or arts. They mastered the art of creating fire for warmth by rubbing dry sticks together, and were renowned for their exceptional archery skills, making them standout hunters with their crafted bows and arrows. Following the submersion of the land bridges, an influx of Asian migrants settled in the Philippines, forming the foundation of today's indigenous communities. They were maritime Indonesians, belonging to the Mongoloid race with Caucasian characteristics, who arrived in boats, becoming the first seafaring immigrants to reach the Philippines. These migrants were far more advanced than the Negritos. They resided in dwellings constructed from wooden frames covered with grass, often elevated above the ground or perched atop trees. Engaging in dry agriculture, they cultivated upland rice, taro, and various food crops. Their attire, crafted from beaten bark, featured intricate designs. Cooking was conducted in bamboo tubes, as pottery was unfamiliar to them. Their livelihoods revolved around hunting and fishing, employing polished stone axes and chisels as tools. For weaponry, they wielded bows and arrows, spears, shields, and blowguns, or locally known as sumpit. The sole domesticated animal in their possession was the dog. These groups were succeeded by the Malays, who were regarded as the initial explorers and settlers of the Pacific region. Culturally, the Malays were more advanced than the Negritos and Indonesians, as they had an Iron Age culture. They introduced various advancements to the Philippines, including lowland and highland rice cultivation methods, irrigation systems, animal domestication, metal tool and weapon production, pottery, and weaving techniques. Their communities were intricately structured, blending sophisticated systems of governance, law, religion, art, science, and traditions rooted in Malay heritage. Their attire was equally refined, featuring garments crafted from woven fabrics and embellished with gold, pearls, and gemstone jewelry. Their armaments were notably sophisticated, including swords, shields, and armor fashioned from animal hide and hardwood, alongside bronze cannons. Communities in early Philippine settlements typically clustered around rivers and were frequently isolated by natural barriers. Consequently, instead of developing a centralized political system, they fostered connections through intermarriage and kinship bonds. The recorded history of the Philippines commences around 900 AD with the Laguna copperplate inscription, which serves as a legal document known as Suda Patra, essentially acting as a receipt for the settlement of a debt in today's context. During this era, the inhabitants of the archipelago began organizing themselves into socio-political units called barangays, derived from the term balangays, which refers to the small yet sturdy boats that the nation's Malay ancestors utilized to traverse the Pacific Ocean and settle in its territories. It can be composed of tens to hundreds of individuals. These barangays were headed by a local chieftain named as Datu. Below the Datu, the Council of Elders served as a key advisory body. It's significant to note that the Datu could be male or female, reflecting the democratic principles of the country's pre-Hispanic ancestors, where gender was irrelevant as long as the Datu earned the trust and support of the community. In regions with greater Indian influence, the rulers were referred to as Rajas. Later, in areas that embraced Islam, they were known as sultans. These societies were typically stratified into four distinct classes: the Maginoo, representing the nobility; the Timawa, comprising the commoners; the Maharlika, denoting the warrior class; and the Alipin, who served as the lower class or servants. The early societies of the Philippines were deeply entrenched in a belief system that revered a multitude of deities, spirits, and mythical beings responsible for safeguarding various elements of nature, such as streams, fields, trees, mountains, forests, and dwellings. Bathala, the supreme deity credited with the creation of the earth and humanity, stood above all others in this pantheon. To appease these divine entities, some benevolent, others malevolent, regular offerings and prayers were made as a means of seeking favor and protection. People wielding influence over both the supernatural and natural domains were esteemed figures within their communities. Every village had its cadre of shamans and priests engaged in friendly competition to showcase their abilities and perform ceremonial healing rites. Some gained fame for crafting anting-anting, or magical talismans believed to grant invincibility against human foes, while others specialized in brewing love potions or creating amulets that conferred invisibility upon their wearers. Before the 9th century AD, ancient Filipinos encountered Buddhism and Hinduism. Records from China and India suggest that certain Philippine barangays and islands paid tribute to the Srivijaya Empire, a powerful Indonesian Buddhist state that dominated maritime trade in the area from the 6th to 13th centuries. The influences of both Buddhism and Hinduism deeply permeated local beliefs and culture, facilitated by linguistic ties between the Philippines and Indian Sanskrit, leaving a profound and enduring legacy. From 1350 onwards, Islam gradually extended its influence from Indonesia into the Philippine archipelago. When the Spaniards arrived, Islam had established a firm presence in the Mindanao and Sulu, with outposts in Cebu and Luzon. The Muslim regions boasted the highest degree of political integration and cultural cohesion among the islands at the time. Some speculate that given more time, Islam could have potentially unified the entire archipelago. In the years preceding European arrival, the Bruneian Sultanate extended its reach into the Philippines. In 1500, Sultan Bolkiah orchestrated a triumphant campaign northward to challenge Tondo's dominance in the regional Chinese trade. This led to the establishment of Manila, also known as Selurong, on the Pasig Delta, which became a satellite ruled by his successors. Bruneian influence expanded further across Manila Bay, parts of Batangas, and the coastal areas of Mindoro through enhanced trade and political ties. Years later, Magellan and his crew arrived at Homanhon Island, an event often regarded as the beginning of the country's history. However, this view requires reconsideration. Long before any foreign powers reached its shores, The Philippines was inhabited by ancient human populations for thousands and possibly even millions of years. Recognizing this deep history is crucial in appreciating the Philippines' significant contribution to the broader narrative of human history. If you're interested to know more about the rich history of other countries, be sure to watch our next video. We hope you like our story, and we'll catch you in the next one.